I'm Nicole,
I'm Danae.
and we are two sisters living on opposite coasts, passionate about all things pop culture, entertainment, celebrities, women's issues, you name it. We're so
Mm.
excited to kick off our first podcast. This is Rhinestoned.
Rhinestoned. I'm so excited, sister.
I'm so excited too because we've been talking about doing this podcast for
Our
over
whole
a
lives.
decade. Yeah, I think so. A long time. Which, you know, it's okay as long as you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And I think it's also just like sometimes life just takes you places where suddenly you have more time for things like this.
That is true. Actually, maybe that's something we do share. We are both currently unemployed at the moment. That's okay. But I think to your point, gives us some good time right now to focus on some other things. And actually, that has been, I think, a large part for both of us of why we haven't been able to pursue some of our more creative endeavors, working
Yeah,
some of these like high-power jobs over the years. So
yeah.
stressful, doesn't give you a lot of time for anything after that.
Yeah, and creativity is really hard to find from the hours of 5 to 9, when you've just been like absolutely zapped and giving it to corporate. So I think I almost feel like this is a much almost not deserved. Nothing is deserved, right? But I think it going into the holidays to have a moment to press pause and have some mental clarity on what we actually want to do next with ourselves, and then use this as a little like fun thing to focus our energy on as we figure out our lives. Yeah.
Totally. I'm also excited for us too because we're just going to be fully transparent with you all. We have not really done much planning here.
No.
I think where some of this sparked is like sisters. I know a lot of sisters out there can relate. We get
Mm.
on the phone with each other, we start talking about one thing, then it jumps to another and another and another. Before we know it, 3 hours has gone by. So I think for us, I'm really excited to just feel this out. And while I think we
Yeah.
have, some general like topical stuff that we love to talk about, uh,
Yeah.
I think anyone listening, you're going to be on this journey with us of figuring out exactly what we want this podcast to be. But I'm excited.
I'm excited. And I would say, not to speak for Nicole, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I really do. I would say that's probably the main form of media that I intake. And I think one of the things that I've seen is the more successful ones, in my opinion, do keep it loose, like do figure it out. I don't think we need to have something so binary that we stick to every single week. And I think through that lens, you guys will have the opportunity to really get to know all of the different sides of us, right? Instead of just focusing in on maybe how we think about one particular topic, which is exciting because it should keep this fresh as we move forward. So,
Yeah.
do you want to go to like
I'm-
general intros of who the heck we are?
Oh, I think, yeah, that's actually probably a good idea so that people know a little bit more about us.
Okay.
Well, we are both mid-30s. Myself, I have been living in New York City for 20 years now. I live in Manhattan with my boyfriend. We both mentioned we're unemployed, but I have spent most of my career working in marketing, so definitely looking to continue on that path. But I am absolutely obsessed with the city. I still am one of those people that just never gets sick of all of the different things that you can do out here. So you will hear me probably referencing quite a bit some of the shenanigans that I'm getting up to here on the East Coast.
We can only hope. We can only hope. So Nicole and I grew up in California, and
Yeah,
she left me. She left me when she was 17,
sorry.
y'all. When she was a baby.
I
I
was a
mean,
baby.
we'll tell that story over and over and over again, I'm sure. People will be sick of that one day. But yeah, so I'm still here. I'm in California. Spent about 15 years in San Francisco. It's really where I kind of ironed out my career and creative and supporting different creative teams at some really exciting companies. But yeah, I moved to are we calling it Central California?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
sure.
Um,
Central
sure.
California. We just had a
Okay.
debate off camera about where Danae actually lives. Let's go with Central California.
Okay. And I Googled it and I feel like it's Central
Indicated.
California. Okay.
I
So
I
anyway,
I disagree, but we're gonna go with Google.
my husband disagrees as well. But I do have one of those. I picked one of those up in 2016. He's a great model, little wear and tear, but we're going to keep him. We're going to keep him for a couple more years. And I had two just absolutely gorgeous daughters that
The
I'm obsessed
cutest.
with. So,
I am such a
oh,
lucky
yeah.
auntie.
This is Auntie. This is Auntie Nicole. That's
So,
really what we should have been saying.
yeah, I mean, you do have the cutest little girls, though.
I'm so blessed.
Absolutely adorable.
And I know we're going to talk about other things, but the one thing I wanted to keep for you, Nicole, and I think you've seen this because I've put this on Instagram before, but it's one of my prized possessions. And I think it's apropos. This is I'm going to be drinking some coffee this morning because it's a little earlier on the West Coast than it is on the East Coast. And this
True.
is my incredibly important mug. I'll read this for you. This is the Maligned Women mug. And there's four different quadrants here. So this is mistreated by politics, mistreated by media, mistreated by capitalism, and mistreated by religion. Key players, I won't read them all to you. People like Monica Lewinsky, Anna Nicole Smith, Tanya Harding, Janet Jackson. Really solid stuff here. And I think
I
just
love
a
that.
great little reminder as I
Well,
sip into my morning.
Janet Jackson too, having to be a part of that group because of Justin Timberlake still just makes me so irritated every time I think about
And didn't he get his with that little snafu in the rafters coming down?
it.
Now we all know what his thing is. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Sorry,
big
Carmen.
time.
Carmen's
I
here.
love that. I love that mug. I don't think I've seen
Mhm.
that before.
Thank you. Had to share. Had to share.
I do think that's apropos. I think that's, you know, we wanted to call the podcast Rhinestoned, but I think that that's something that we often reflect on with a lot of our conversations as they start from a very kind of, silly and fun place, but very quickly they start to veer off into much, much deeper areas and topics of conversation. But
You
okay,
know?
let's keep it light to start,
Okay. Okay. Tell
Halloween
me
this
stuff.
week. As you can
Mm.
see, I'm sporting some festive with my orange.
Little ghouls. Is that
Yeah.
what that is?
I think they're little Frankensteins, right?
Oh, Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. That came out, or is that coming out? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
I think soon, yeah.
Soon.
How do you feel about Halloween? Is this it's a big holiday for you? You get excited by it or
It's such a good question. So I wouldn't say that there's a lot of things that mark me as like a true millennial. You know, I'm not a Swiftie.
I'm not a Swiftie either.
I
Should we
don't
be
know why it's the
establishing
one thing
that
I can
so
think of.
soon in this podcast? I think we probably just cut our viewership and like
I think that's
by
okay. I
75.
don't want to lead y'all on.
Yeah.
I don't want to lead anyone on.
That's a conversation for another time.
We could go round for round on that one. Anyway, but my point was to make fun of myself, but I do enjoy a Harry Potter book or movie. So yeah, I have a pretty deep setup outside that includes like hanging candles, stuff like that. And I was telling mom the other day,
Our
um,
mother. We share the same mother. Yes, we're
we
sisters.
do, and we're blessed in that way. Um, no, I was telling her like I can remember 3 years ago when my baby girl came home and the house was decorated and she literally was just walking around like, Dad, wow, Dad, wow. And it was just like, I don't know, like a couple of things around. And ever since that, I think it's really put holidays inclusive of Halloween through a different lens for me
Hmm.
because that gives me I do it for that. I only do it so that when she comes home, I get that reaction from her of seeing the decorations and being so excited. And so it makes me excited to do it, you
Yeah,
know?
no, totally. It's like you're getting to relive it all like through the eyes of your kid.
Yeah.
The
So
wonder
that's, I
of
mean,
it, I'm
that
sure,
is
kind of
special.
comes back in a different way.
Yeah. And we go trick-or-treating. It was so funny though. There was this TikTok that I got served the other day. Have you heard of trunk or treating?
I have not heard of trunk or treating. Oh
Okay,
God.
so trunk or treating is this like new thing where instead of going trick or treating, because the world is bad, you everyone drives to a parking lot on like a Thursday, decorates the back of their trunk, like opens up their trunk, and then you just
Oh,
go trick or treating like in the parking lot, trunk to trunk. So this is the new thing instead of trick or treating. So we will be trick or treating.
I just don't even know, like, that makes me actually really sad to hear. I feel like we keep having these like new things that come up as like trends, but really it's just all stuff that is born out of the fact that like our society is crumbling.
Well, yeah, I think that that's exactly what it is. I mean, sorry not to go there, but it's like I think, like when they're ready, I will be having them order things on like if we're ordering a pizza, it's like call it in. I think that's part of trick or treating. Go to the door.
Yeah.
Go to the door, ring the doorbell, interact, like learn how to
Yeah, it feels like you're
exercise that
changing the
muscle.
whole thing by having it be out
It's
of
so
order.
sanitized. Yeah, yeah. So we will be actually going door to door. And that's what we'll do. What are you do? What are you gonna do? What's
Well,
Halloween look like in your world?
yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I haven't dressed up for Halloween in years. I don't have any children. Trick-or-treating here in New York for kids is very, very
Oh my
different.
God. Everything
It kind of it depends on like what neighborhood you live
about
in. Obviously there's, parts of Brooklyn with like all the beautiful brownstones, and
Mhm.
that probably is a little bit more similar to what it would be like, out in the suburbs. But I think, for a lot of kids, trick-or-treating is going up and down the floors of your building, which I
Oh,
think would be
duh.
such an interesting experience to have as a
Of
kid, you
course.
know?
Yes. Yes.
It would be
When
very fun. I bet you get like a lot more candy that way, right?
100%.
Because there's
100%.
just
Because
there's more scale.
yes. And I think when you can get the whole building to actually want to participate, you can't just organically get a whole block to participate. Like we'll go 5 houses and no one will have
Yeah,
anything to give, right?
totally.
So, yeah.
I mean, well, then that was always such the depressing thing as a kid, right? Growing up, like you and I loved going trick-or-treating, but definitely I think like, as time went on, more houses would be dark, right? Or not participating. So it became kind of limiting.
Okay, I'm sorry. You know what I'm thinking about. I'm going to send you a vibe, okay? And you tell me if you can guess what I'm thinking about.
No, I honestly have no
No, wait, hold
Halloween.
on.
I have no significant Halloween memories outside of that Halloween that you spent in New York.
Okay. Childhood, Halloween, first street we lived on. What happened when we woke up in the morning?
Oh, seriously don't remember. This is the best part
Okay.
about being a sibling too, is like you just realize that there's certain things that like either one of you doesn't remember, one of you is blocked out, one of you misremembers. I am drawing a blank right now.
Okay, I'm gonna say it and you're gonna kick yourself. So when Nicole and I were growing up, I think one of the first times that we ever not went to a pumpkin patch, but definitely like probably went somewhere to get those patterns that you cut into the pumpkins, like to take it really seriously beyond just like triangles. Okay. So we did that. And in the morning, we were very excited to go out and just see how our pumpkins had fared. And some neighborhood kids had smashed them all over the street. And that is a story that my dad still tells to this day about like the day innocence left, like when both you and I realized
I do remember
that
that now.
people can just be unkind for no
So
good
unkind.
reason.
Man, it's tough being a kid, right? It's like
It's hard out there.
it is hard.
Well,
But
maybe
there
in the
are those like
90s.
early lessons that are so difficult. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I totally remember that. That was devastating.
Thank
But
you.
see, to my
You would.
earlier point, I think that's a memory I blocked. I would rather
So,
not think about that. It makes me too sad. Uh,
Nicole says happy only, please.
yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
I don't want to
That's
focus
why
on that.
that's why I said the one in New York. Danae and I had a epic Halloween together in New York. That was a what, like
Oh my
12
God.
years ago now or something?
12 years ago.
Thing like that. Feels like a lifetime ago. We had quite the night. Let's just say that. Yeah. I was Poison Ivy, you were Catwoman.
I had a whip.
Yeah. We
That was nice.
we had a time. Those were the days. But yeah, no, my Halloween's gonna be really interesting this year because like I said, I haven't dressed up in some time, I think. I actually can't even remember the last time I dressed up for
Yeah,
Halloween.
what were you last? What were you? Can you even remember? Wait,
No,
hold on.
the
Can I
last thing
remember?
I kind of remember doing for Halloween, like, it was just like wearing all black and like a spider necklace and putting like, some
Okay.
like temporary tattoos on my eyes to create,
Yeah.
But I don't remember the last time I did like an actual costume. But yeah, this weekend will be interesting for me. So my boyfriend is a little bit younger than me. I say little. And really, I mean, maybe a lot. And we're gonna spend actual Halloween with his friends. We're gonna go to a house party in Brooklyn, and then I
Oh, I
think
don't know any of this.
I know that's why I'm telling you. And we're
This
gonna
is so
go
fun.
to like basically, what I would call like an EDM club. So
Okay.
please pray for me.
Well,
Um,
it'll be
these
fine.
it's really hard to go to those types of clubs when you're not, let's say fully participating in the experience, if you catch my drift. So, as an elder millennial, it should be an interesting night. So for that night, you know, it's hard. I've been all over the place with my costumes. I wanted to include my boyfriend in it. Also, as I'm sure a lot of you can relate, I knew it was going to fall on me to figure out his costume. So I want his costume to be low key so that I can do less work overall. Of
Yes. Keep the
course.
lift low.
Yeah. Why am I going
Yes.
to go out of my way,
Right.
to make it?
Yes.
So I've been racking my brain and I don't even remember how I came up with this. Maybe I saw something somewhere, but basically, I am going to be Cupid and he is going to be shot by my arrow. So I
No.
just want to thank Amazon because
Amazon, we
they have
love
made
you. Future sponsorship.
they've made my
Hi.
vision come to life here. I found a t-shirt for him. It's like a white t-shirt that has, a red arrow through the chest, like as if he's been shot. And then I'm putting together just like using my own clothes, like my own red look.
And
And
we
then
know we've got
I've done some
those.
fun props. So I have like some red angel wings. I got a like toy bow and arrow. I have like a heart crown. And then I got some like temporary tattoos and like some like glitter tattoos of lips that I'm going to make him wear all over his head. So I'm
I might
actually
have to
pretty
steal it.
excited.
That is the cutest thing.
I'm
Good
pretty
for
proud of myself
you.
on this one. And then when I
Okay.
Googled it and saw the other couples that have done this costume, it's so easy. So, like, just for anyone out there that's still struggling,
Yes.
if you can't get this t-shirt, you could just take a white men's shirt and put on some red lipstick and then kiss all over your
That's a
guy's
great idea.
shirt. So
That's
that's
such a good idea.
I saw another couple did that. So that's very simple. And then to kind of swing in the fully opposite direction on Saturday, November 1st, there's actually like a pretty cool social club here in New York called Matinee. And because I've been to some of these events before,
Mm-hmm.
they are dance parties exclusively for millennials. So they start at 5 p.m. and usually end around 10 or 11. It's always a pizza party. They basically take over different clubs and lounges in the city. They have different themes and things like that. They bring in
Mm.
pizza at some point. But for Halloween, they're doing a dead celebrities ball. So I have still not figured out what my boyfriend is going to wear, but I finally
What
landed
are you
on
gonna
one
be?
yesterday.
Okay, what is it?
I was cleaning out my closet, transferring over all of, here in New York, we don't have a lot of space, so I have to store all of my summer clothing outside of my apartment.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
that's
found
fine.
this dress that I had bought, I think like on vacation, kind of a Spanish vibe. And it finally came to me. I am going to be Frida Kahlo. I'm so
Oh, I love it.
excited. So, it's been fun looking at all these flower crowns again on Amazon. I'm gonna braid my hair and, kind of like, and then probably draw in the eyebrows, I think. But I figure since I already have kind of thick eyebrows, it's gonna be fun. So I don't know what he's gonna wear. I think he's just gonna have to figure this one out. But
You
it'll
know
be,
what? He's
it'll
just
be a
gonna be
fun
happy to be
Halloween.
there.
What was that?
I said he's just gonna be happy to be there.
Exactly. I'll be honest, I'm kind of skeptical that we're gonna make it to the Saturday party.
Why?
Because let's be real, being out till like Friday at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning and then getting up and getting ready to party again at 5 the next day, not as young as I used to be.
I
That's a
mean,
that's a tall order. I had a, you know, pretty humbling moment recently as it relates to drinking. This was like a couple weekends ago, and my boyfriend and I had gone out during the day on Saturday. It was like here in New York every year they do this event called Open House New York. You would love this actually.
um,
They open up over 145 destinations that are like normally closed to the public.
cool.
A lot of it is like ticketed, and I am never like fast enough to get those ones,
Mhm.
but a lot of them are just like places that you can drop in on any time. So there's like random graveyards that are normally like closed to the public you can go see, or we went to go see this sculpture studio, so we were having a good day. We went to the sculpture studio, that was fun, and then we tried to go to this like newly renovated brownstone that was like a historic brownstone but had this like multi-million dollar renovation. Massive line. We waited in it for like 30 minutes. Then I'm getting hungry, so we went and got some food. And after that, we were like, okay, it's still early. Maybe we'll go out and have like one more drink and then we'll go home.
Yeah.
So, we kind of go to a couple of places. It's like mobbed. Like we were in the West Village, which has become like even more popular than it was, when I first moved
When
to
it was
New York.
popular? Yeah.
Yes. It's
Right.
crazy now. So we go to all the usual spots. It's too crowded. We're like, no, we don't want to go there. Fine. So we end up at a spot like closer to our apartment. We decide to like walk back towards our apartment, and my boyfriend had never been there before. It was my second time going. It's just packed with like very young, like trendy, very like also international. I love spots like that. It's so much fun people watching to see how people behave in those types of situations. When this is a tangent, but when we were there, I watched two women come in and they just could not process that the host was not going to give them a table. It's like a very small bar. There's like they
Mhm.
kind of have this like system where when you get in, they tell you, okay, we need you to like stand at the standing room only, and then as soon as something opens up. But I've sort of realized like that's their whole thing. Like nothing is gonna open up like unless
Okay.
you go and stand there first. So they're
Okay.
trying to explain to these women, like, go stand. And they're looking at
Mhm.
me sitting and all these other women that look like them sitting. And just the conversation going back and forth was just like the level of entitlement was so fascinating. And finally, the host gets frustrated and calls one of the other guys over and was like, "You deal with it," type
Yeah.
of thing, because like,
Yeah.
they're not getting it. So, anyways, that was fascinating. So fast forward, we're just enjoying our drinks, and my boyfriend, he's a very outgoing guy, and so, so am I. So this happens to us a lot where we end up having like conversations with people at restaurants or things like that. So he starts talking to our waiter, who had been the one that to come and help when these two ladies were, having their issue.
Mm.
And, they strike up a conversation, and you could just tell he was like now kind of feeling differently towards us, whatever. So
Right.
we told him we were getting ready to leave, and he's like, "Can I get you guys a shot?" Which, when I was in my 20s, you go out in New York, and the bartender or waiter or whoever at the restaurant
You're not
wants to
passing
give you
that
a
up?
shot. You're like, "Yeah, free shot.
Yeah.
Send it over."
What?
I mean, just makes you feel so special in the moment, and you're like, "Ugh, there's nothing better than feeling like you've connected with someone that works at the restaurant, right?"
Yeah, you've been chosen.
The ultimate, right? So, I don't even hear this going on, and my boyfriend tells me, I said, "Well, what are we taking shots of?" And he was like, "Well, the guy said tequila." So I was like, "Yeah, sure, sure, tequila." Okay. So he brings us over. It almost looks like, I can't remember, I'm sure they have a name, but like when you go to a fast food restaurant, you get a little plastic cup to put your ketchup in. That's what it
Yes.
looked like a little flat,
Yes.
okay, but it was metal, right? So I was like,
Okay.
"Okay, I've never seen a shot like this before, but he brings it over, and I'm just trying to be a big girl and, take it.
Good shot.
When I tell you that I basically wasn't able to breathe after for like a good minute,
Now,
I
did you play it off?
I know, I'm like leaning into my boyfriend like this, like just anything to just feel like I could actually breathe again. It's just in the back of my throat. I can't catch a breath, okay? The cool kids sitting around us, I could tell some of them are looking at me like, "Is she okay?" And I told him after, I was like, you can't let me do these shots. I can't handle it anymore." I realized in that moment,
Over
and
for
this is
you.
not the first time that I've said this lately, but, like, I really don't think I can do shots anymore. Like, I just don't
No,
think I can. I don't think it
no.
matters unless it's, like, one of those fruity ones or, like, sometimes we've been given those at restaurants where it's, like, a nice little mini cocktail in a
Right.
glass,
It's a
something like
lemon drop.
that.
That's even a bad example. Lemon drops suck. But yeah, it's like a
Yeah, some a
whatever.
grasshopper,
Yes.
straight up shot of tequila. I think I've aged out,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah. When we go to Cabo or Cancun, we
Love.
go to all inclusives. I'm not gonna lie and say we go to these like incredibly fancy places. We go to, I mean, really solid and incredible all inclusives, but they are that. And you that's all you have to do all day is you just drink. And then you get to a point where you don't really, it's just kind of like sun and sand and like the
Yeah,
day. Who knows? Is it 11? Is it 7? And these guys, they'll just bring you these shots and you wake up in the morning and you realize probably around 12 all of that was water. They weren't bringing us real shots anymore. You know
probably.
what I mean? Like
I'm
at
sure
a
there's some
certain
sort of,
point,
like, cutoff system.
100%. And we were having fun regardless. We loved those shots of water. We were having so much fun. But yeah, that is the only time. Tequila shots in Mexico. Literally. I don't
No,
know.
I mean, I don't know. It's just not my vibe anymore, and I think,
It's not.
I'm okay with that. I am gonna have
That's
to
okay.
figure out something to do in these moments, though, because I do still love to feel cool, like I'm being given a free shot, you
I
know?
still feel like I'm on like in my life journey though, not that okay. I just want to say, not that we're centering alcohol. We're only talking about this because it's a party weekend. So just to let
Yeah,
everyone know.
Halloween.
It's Halloween, but I can remember going out to New York, for example, on some business trip and being there like at a table, and everyone's ordering some sort of cocktail and never feeling like I knew what I really wanted or like what to order. And I do still feel like I'm in that exact same place that I should have a go-to.
Oh,
And maybe
I
that
get
will
that.
be like a journey that I need to take,
I
like
see, I
something I
my
can just
problem
set.
is I have several go-tos, and it's,
Okay,
like,
well, what are your go-to? What's a go-to? Give me
depending
two.
depending on my mood. Well, I would say, like, I love a cosmopolitan, definitely.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Oh, that's solid. And probably a lot
yeah.
of people know how to make that, especially
Yes,
in
definitely. That's, like, an easy one. A lot of my
um,
friends also, and I enjoy too, like a gin gimlet, which is
gin.
lemon and lime juice. I
Gin
it's,
rarely
like,
does me
very
wrong.
fruity, refreshing drink,
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that.
So,
I hear that.
espresso martini, yes, I don't care, I'm
Man, I've
basic.
never even had an espresso martini.
What? You've never had an espresso martini?
Here's why.
How is that possible? Our parents love espresso martinis.
Do
They've
love
never
an espresso.
made
I
one
think a
for you?
lot of, well, are they boomers? I feel so wrong calling them boomers because I don't feel like they fit the boomer, but I guess technically age
They have
wise.
some boomer tendencies,
They
but
have that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But um, here's why. Because here's why. I know probably in New York or maybe Miami or something like that. There is an incredible espresso martini. That's the one I want. I don't
Okay.
want the one at the Chili's. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when
Oh,
I
that one
first
at
had my
Chili's looks
first
so gross.
espresso. Oh my
Yeah, I
God, is
saw
it good?
that. I saw that. That looks disgusting. I don't know how, like, I love Chili's.
See?
Chili's
That's
has
what I'm saying.
no business making an espresso martini.
Don't give me an espresso martini. I want to go to like the right place and have the my virginity of espresso martini taken at you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a rite of passage.
Okay. The next time you're here, we're gonna go. I'm gonna take you on an espresso martini tour, and we will because there really is not just one really good one. There's like
I believe this.
so.
We might have to cap off each night with an espresso martini. Okay, do we
Well,
want to talk about stuff
I
going on
have
in the
well,
world?
yeah, I have a question for you.
Tell me.
Do you
Hit me.
do you remember Wife Swap?
Oh my God. Okay.
Do y'all
Here's my
remember
story
the
of Wife
show Wife
Swap.
Swap? Does everyone
I
remember?
loved Wife Swap. When I was in college, we had very limited cable in the dorms. You put a
As you
coax
do.
cable to the wall and you hoped stuff came through. Wife
As
Swap was one of those things.
it
Wife
happened.
Swap was definitely one of those things. And I can remember, I don't know if anyone remembers that little boy. But there's this famous episode. Everyone go TikTok it because it's cut a million times on TikTok where a mom comes in and she wants him to start eating differently, and he's just running around like chicken fingers are good for me, and you don't understand, and you're just a boss lady trying to boss me around. So I mean, yes, but why? Why do I care about Wife Swap?
It's back.
Where?
Bravo has brought
Oh my
Wife Swap.
God.
Andy Cohen is diabolical. You know, I just
This
like, what
man.
is he gonna do next? He has brought it back, and it is specifically with the housewives. So
Oh,
last
that's good
night,
though.
I mean, it's just you gotta hand it to him.
He's
Last night,
always iterating.
first episode, or at least I don't know if it came out last night. I watched it last night
Lucky
with
thing.
Angie from Salt
Okay.
Lake. Okay.
NGK.
They're just doing one. I mean, I think I don't remember, but I feel like the original Wife Swap, you almost like episodes were aired back to back or something like that. But
Yeah.
this is just focusing on Angie wife swapping with another wife. A plus television.
Okay, hold on.
All the feels, all of the, all of the, just like male female dynamics coming back again, but
Hmm.
set in 2025 against the backdrop of it being a Real Housewife, which I think next episode is going to be Melissa Gorga. But you have to check it out.
Oh, that's a good get. Wait. When we say wife swap, sorry to clarify, when we say wife swap, so Angie is swapping, does that mean that that wife goes to Angie's husband, who I'm spacing on his name? Is
It
that part of the show?
it sure does. Yes. So
Really?
Angie gets swapped with a woman who
Okay.
is living off grid in Idaho.
They're
They,
so dirty.
her and her
They are,
family.
Bravo's so dirty.
I mean, it's honestly just like who comes? I just mother of three,
Okay.
no running water,
Okay. It's a choice.
meaning their toilet has no running water.
Okay.
I've now
Okay.
seen Angie have to empty a toilet manually.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Oh, so
fascinating.
this is wife swap the simple life.
Yeah, I mean, it just I can tell from the previews for the Melissa Gorga episode that not all of them are going to be this like rural kind of exchange, I'm sure they
It
were
might be
trying
more one
to
to
make
one.
it. I think, my guess is that they're trying to make it probably so like they're not swapping too far away. So,
Hmm.
Salt Lake, Idaho, I mean, really, aren't we just talking about I
Yeah.
don't know, you're maybe better
Driving up.
is geography there, but I saw the Melissa Gorga one is like an Atlanta family. So, it feels like they're trying to keep it
Okay.
like what would be like 2 to 3 hour flight time or something like that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think Angie probably just by like default ended up switching with like an Idaho family. Um, but I don't want to spoil it too much, but I have to say, like,
Hmm.
it gave me this like the same warm and fuzzies at the end. I think Angie was a great pick because at the end of the day, even though like we've all watched her be pretty brutal on Salt Lake, I do think she has like a very like soft heart or at least like a soft side to her. And
Yeah.
you saw that come out.
Yeah.
Conversely, what was really interesting was the Idaho woman, I think, thought it would be really easy to be Angie and it wasn't,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it just,
Yeah.
again, that was what was always so great about that show was just that reminder that, the grass is not always greener in any,
Right.
stretch of the imagination. And
Right.
also I think how universal the experience is of being a woman though too, right?
Totally.
Being a
Totally.
mother, being a wife doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like your I mean, it does obviously in terms of like how much help you have or things like that, right? But like the core experience of sort of being the backbone of a family, I think is the same. So watching these
Yeah.
two kind of reconcile that was fascinating.
Well, okay, so this everything that you just said just brings me to I was listening to another podcast of mine, okay? And they review housewives, right?
Yeah, of course.
And
Love
so
a we are all big fans of all of the
Stan,
review podcasts out there.
think you all do beautiful work. Watch What Crappens, Turtle Time, Everything Iconic. We love you. We love you. We love you. But one of the things that they were saying, one of those podcasts was saying was, as they were attempting to review OC,
Yeah,
that it was a drudgery, right? Because everything is so performative, everything feels so produced by the cast themselves, right? And they were really kind of noodling between the two of them, like, well, what is it? What is it that we found ourselves here with Potomac and with OC and with New Jersey being canceled and with the New York not working, right? And I don't want to say this to say that family has to look like one thing. I think whatever your family structure is gorgeous and beautiful, and we love that. But my estimation is, well, because we got away from the family of it all, and I think that that's maybe what we're getting at in the wife swap,
yeah,
working and giving you those warm fuzzy feelings, right? Is that if you're going back to Vicky Gunvalson behind the Kodo gates, right,
totally.
you have this woman who truly is like dropping her, like running an insurance company, dropping her kids off to school, trying to make this second marriage work. And you look at that and you're like, wow, yeah, the money isn't relatable, but everything else is. And I think you have to have that relatability there. And we've lost that across, I think, a lot of the Housewives franchises. I think we need to do a major shakeup. And that wife swap is an attempt to do that. Of like, let's break these women out of this like set that we've had them in for so long and see if they can't bring something else to the table, you know? And
You
I
you start to wonder too, though, like how much just like being in that universe has driven some of that behavior, because that's what's interesting
100%.
for some of the like longer standing housewife franchises or housewives that have been around for a while is like, we can remember when things used to be different. I mean, like, with like Melissa Gorga is going to be the next wife swap. Like when Melissa Gorga was first, premiering on New Jersey Housewives, to your point, like a lot of her time on air was like about being a mother and she's taking care of
Yeah.
this house, taking care of the kids. And
Yeah.
not to say that that isn't still like part of what you see, but I think it's also a lot more about like, what she's doing personally, like with her business and things like that. It was interesting with Angie, her family's like gripe, because that's also part of the format of the show, right? You kind of hear from like the husband and the children, like
Sure.
what they're looking forward to about this experience or what's frustrating them about, their mom and or the wife. And, their critique of Angie was that, instead of sitting and watching television as a family, she's in the background cleaning, right? Or doing all of these things that they deem as sort of, unnecessary. But I think to the point of like, motherhood being a universal experience, the Idaho woman is kind of at the end feeling like, oh, wow, like you actually have a lot to do to kind of keep all of this up,
Running.
right? And keep all of this going. And it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that Angie doesn't want to be sitting on the couch, right, every night with her husband and her daughter. It just means that maybe like she can't always.
Oh my God. And
So,
I
you have to watch it. I think it's gonna stir up a lot of things for you too, but I think it's a clever reboot for
well,
sure.
I mean, and I don't want to sit here and talk about housework, right? But I do think that this goes back to, and we've seen it a million times on TikTok, right? Like women saying this, the domestic labor doesn't stop. And it's rare that you do have a partner who's like 100%, if you're with a man, I'm sorry, I'm just going to generalize. All right. Sorry. But it is, I think, rarer in that case to have someone who is right there with you, knows and is anticipating when the laundry needs to get turned, knows and is anticipating when, things need, there is still that little bit of, I was probably trained more on that as I was growing up, right?
Yeah,
Like mom taught us that skill of how to keep a home, and that skill necessarily wasn't taught to young boys, especially our generation, right? Because I do think we still come from a generation of like, don't worry, someone's going to keep the home from you,
yeah,
or for you, right? So yeah, I even think about that, like, when if I'm blessed to find a job, right? It's like, yeah, you're working and then you're working. As a mom, you're like closing the laptop to then go like, all right, well, what needs to get done? Whose thing isn't washed?
yeah.
Yeah, I would love to sit on my couch and do nothing, but those bottles aren't going to clean themselves and she's going to need one in 2 hours. So it is, It's not glamorous, and I'm glad. You know, the one thing I would say though, hold on, the one thing I would say about Bravo, to put a bow on this conversation about it, they platform women of a certain age, and I do still appreciate that. Like, say what you will about anything else, I do appreciate that at the end of the day, of course you have your southern charms and stuff like that, you know. Even that though, that's people in their mid-30s. You think it's not
And
elf.
older. I mean, we're talking about some of the men.
These men are 42, like
Yeah,
literally
so
out here anyway. But yes, they still platform and give a voice to and put a lens on women from that 30 to, 60 even demographic,
totally.
right?
Yeah, I
And
was
give and
watching
so
Potomac and like, we have
yeah.
like Giselle and like, yeah, I think like I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think if you actually think about it, outside of like the rare, iconic, like the Meryl Streeps and the Glenn Closes and all
Hmm.
of that, right? Like there isn't a huge market in the entertainment industry for women of that age, right? And
No.
I agree with you. I do think the Bravo universe, depending on the franchise, like OC, for example, is kind of giving opportunity to see what life looks like, uh, maybe beyond raising your children or, as you approach menopause or post-menopause, I do appreciate that. I think that is a large part of probably its success too, is like we're getting that full spectrum.
And I think an obvious one too is like it shows you like here's what happens when you get everything you want.
Yeah. And it's not all it's cracked up to be, right?
Did you want the rich husband who was going to pay for everything? Here's what it looks like. You're Lisa Hotchkiss or however you say her name, right? And you're on pins and needles
All
bringing
the time.
20-year-olds through the house just to keep them entertained. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, oh, okay, the cost of it all is interesting in
They
some
really
ways.
should just call it trade-offs, Like I think
I
that's
mean, that's the thing
a series of
of
series of
trade-off.
trade-offs. Well,
Yeah.
what else? We also saw, well, I know you haven't watched it yet, but Nobody Wants This is also back.
I'm going to. What are your
And
initial
we'll have to talk about
thoughts?
that next week. Well, before we even get to that, did you
Hmm.
did you see Kristen Bell is garnering some controversy over her 12-year anniversary post? First of all, for those of you who don't know about this, um, she had a, shall we say, poor taste post recently,
Fair.
joking about DV a little bit. What I find truly hilarious before we even get to the post itself is I'm not sure if you saw, she was actually on the red carpet a night or two before and had completely forgotten that it was her 12th anniversary. She was
Oh,
being
I never saw
interviewed.
that.
Yeah, she was being, I think it might have been like for a Nobody Wants This premiere or something like that. But she was being interviewed and the woman goes, "So, Kristen, are you so excited like for tomorrow?" And she's like, "Tomorrow? Yeah, like tomorrow." And she finally is like, "Oh, it's my wedding anniversary." So the fact that then like the next day she makes this post that goes viral is just that's the part of that has really been cracking me up. But
Okay, wait, hold on. Pin in this for 1 second. I just have to share this. Did you ever see that red carpet with Brad Pitt where they ask him about his daughter who's about to go like to a really prestigious like university, like she just got accepted, and they're like, Brad, like amazing the news and about your daughter, and he goes, yeah. They're like, so what do you think? He's like, isn't that something? Isn't that something? You can just tell this
yeah,
man has no idea. Completely, please, everyone, again, find this on TikTok or YouTube, but it's
I
so it's
missed that.
it's so fantastic. But go
Fake
on.
it till
Okay.
you make it. But see, but that is actually what I like about Kristen Bell, right? Because I feel like in a lot of these, you know, red carpets, whatever, like she is being her authentic self. She had no idea. She admitted that she had no idea. But I think the fact that she had this reminder and then, prompts her to have this post where, she basically is joking about, I think her husband, did she actually say not killing her or something like that?
Yes. That he
I
could kill her and yeah. It was some sort of quote that he had said to her about, "I could kill you,
Yes.
but I won't kill
That's what it
you."
was. Yes. She was sort of, retelling a story or,
Yes.
a comment that he had made. But I
Right.
think this is where, and I don't know how you feel about this because I know you are not, super active on social media. I am, but I've always been kind of, challenged by towing this line between like how much do you want to share. I think it
Sure.
does come to like your relationship or things like that. This is where I think people have gotten really, really confused, right? And things
Mhm.
have started to go left in that. Is that a funny story to maybe share with your sister or with a friend or with someone who knows you well and knows your
It's an
husband well
espresso martini
and knows
story.
your his sense of humor well? Yes, that is a great story for that. Is that a
Awesome.
story that should be told on Instagram? Is it going to resonate? No. And I think what's so sad about like celebrities making some of these decisions is like this happened right before the premiere of her new show. I
Mhm.
would assume everyone around her, including herself, wants the focus to be there.
Yep.
And instead, we're talking about this post.
And
So
it takes people out of it. It takes people
totally.
out of the viewing experience. It does.
I think this is where sometimes these celebrities that just keep it to themselves, you start to
100%.
understand why, because it's
Yep.
not even about little things being picked apart. This is actually a pretty big thing that she should have just never said. It's just
Absolutely.
hard to
And
understand the psychology, especially for celebrities like them. I mean, like, he has his own podcast that's hugely successful. She has continued to have roles in Hollywood. You would think by now, like, these are not the types of things that they like the lessons that they need to learn. But I guess my curiosity is, do you think she cares? Do you think she
mm,
actually gives a shit about
well,
how
that's what I was gonna
it
ask you.
landed?
I was gonna say, is it all just calculated
Is it a joke
anyway?
to her?
Right. Like, do you, as you're pressing a post on that, do you know full well, and then I bring up the phrase rage bait. Maybe that wasn't an intention directly, right? But yeah, I do. It sniffs a bit of any controversy or attention is good attention, right? I know exactly how this is going to land.
Yeah.
She knows how people. See, now this is the dichotomy of Dax, though, because he is this very brash, tattooed, ex addict guy, right? But then his armchair show, who he counterparts with a woman, actually, is much softer than that. So I think that's another thing too. Is like my understanding is he's kind of an asshole, right? But I also think he has a really big following on his podcast that maybe people feel differently of him. So that's another thing too that's like my brain goes to, gosh, I feel like through this armchair expert thing, he's trying really hard to work himself out of that
Yeah,
narrative of being an asshole. And then as
totally.
his wife, you're just like piling on, like, don't forget that this is I wonder about that. Like if I'm him, I'm thinking, did you have to do that? I'm trying to build something positive here. I don't know. I see it from
Or
all these
maybe
different
he
sides.
totally. It just makes you wonder, like, I would love to know the truth of it, you
What
know?
is the conversation that goes on? That makes me think too, not to discuss the Blake Lively thing, but that does make me think, what are the real conversations going on at home? I think the real conversation going on at home for that, as an example, is like Ryan Reynolds being like, I'm pissed. I'm pissed at you.
Yeah,
You had one job, and you've
yeah,
made this messy. So now I have to go out and have
clean
these
up.
fake, I felt like he was on a cleanup tour of what he considered to be her mess. I would, oh, to be a fly on the wall.
I
Oh,
mean, but I guess to his credit, right? I think that's what a lot of women would want, their husbands to do in a
such
situation,
a good point.
right? Like
Such a good
someone
point.
that is gonna come in, and I think that's, like, a lot of women's critique of, like, dating right now, right? Is it doesn't feel like you're gonna find somebody who's going to go to bat for you in that
Oh
way,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is even this is now sparking for me. I mean, if we want to talk about, rumored things that celebrities have done for their wives, this was one I saw recently. I think,
Tell me.
not to veer too deep into politics, but some of you might remember around the last election that George Clooney came out against the Biden administration at one point, which was very, very shocking for people. He's been,
Right.
a longtime
Besties.
supporter of the Democratic
Yeah.
Party. And I think it kind of came out of left field. Well, at the same time, Amal was part of like I think it was like in an international court or something like that. She had been working with a series of other lawyers on charges against Netanyahu. And basically, the Biden administration had denounced that she and this collection of lawyers were trying to go after him. And so the rumor is that that is actually why George Clooney came out and said what he said. He was
Really?
pissed about how they
The
had
treaty.
treated Amal's work toward
Never heard that.
I
Never heard that
I
before.
I believe it so
I do too.
that I 100% think that that's what happened. It makes so much more sense. And I do think that's, again, with some of these like really high-powered celebrities, I think, if you're going to have a successful marriage in Hollywood, whether you're with more of a normie like Amal or you're both in the industry like Blake, you're going to have each other's back like that, because
Mm,
otherwise I think it
mhm.
just will start to show cracks in the marriage. But that one I thought was really interesting because obviously I think that's where you start to go, okay, how much protection from your husband is, still moral in those types of instances where
Oh,
he's
well, I
stepping
mean,
in and doing something that's more like politically charged or, I don't know. It's really interesting because they're very similar but very different use cases.
well, 100%. But I also, it's interesting to think about because there are these 5 year, 2 year, 7 year, and we say like, oh, well, that was like a good relationship. Like Lily Allen and her husband, what? Like they made it like 3 years. And in Hollywood, it's like, well, they really tried. And then you have these relationships. Like even I would say maybe this is a little bit more transactional, but even like Chris and Corey, right? Where you're like, but there is some sort of contract there. Maybe if it's not written, it's understood. Because
Yeah.
if I'm Tom Hanks and what is it, Rita? There has to be some sort of like understanding of like, this is our life. This is how we deal with these situations. This is where we support each other. This is when we're vocal. This is
Yeah.
when we hang back.
Yeah.
This is what we're willing to share. Like, here's where even like I'll accompany you to this stuff, but not to this stuff and let you shine. I just feel like you would have to have it that dialed in. Also, to note about George Clooney, one thing I really appreciate about that is like I feel like I don't this is so parasocial relationship because I don't know George Clooney at all, but
Okay.
like I just feel like that man like waited. I do like when he talks about Amal, he really does talk about her as if she's like a gift from God. And I do think that like that's real. Like there are some celebrity relationships where you see them and you're like, yeah, I do think George Clooney, it doesn't surprise me that he would put himself and sacrifice maybe a reputation that he's built for her. Cause I think
Yeah.
he's like, I can't believe I have her,
No.
which that's the way it should be for everyone, not
Yes.
just Amal and George.
I do agree. Anytime I see those reels that's like, your boyfriend, your husband, whoever should be like obsessed with you, and if they're not, it's not it. I actually think that's like some of the best dating advice out there. It's
Well,
true.
yeah, because ladies, you have
Want
to
them, we
remember
want them
that he could
upset.
kill you.
Upset. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, so I think it's interesting. I'll be curious to see if she ever comes out and speaks about that. I think, to your point about rage bait or her knowing what she's doing, I think then you have to question, okay, well, like now we're joking about DV, right? Which is
Which
just,
is a
I think,
little crazy.
in poor taste anyways, it's a little like insensitive. So I think it sort of says something about her. But anyway, so I've been watching a lot of press leading up to it and actually kind of to the point about like what these celebrities will do for each other. she has been saying sort of the same thing more or less in some of these interviews about, what she thinks makes a successful relationship. And she talks a lot about
Mm,
her and Dax being pretty much like complete opposites, and how, compromise and learning to compromise, learning what they're going to compromise on, making sure
mhm,
the other person is happy with that compromise, that is really kind of the ticket, right? And I think that it's a really convenient, narrative for her because it's reflective of her marriage, but it is also, if you think about Nobody Wants This, at the core of kind of the story, and Nobody Wants This, right? You have two people who like could not come from different worlds,
mhm,
and they're trying to make it work, and they're trying to compromise, and they're trying to figure out, like what those levers are. But I'm curious, like, what do you think about opposites attract and the level of
mm,
compromise within a
mm.
relationship? Like, is there is it possible that it can be too much sometimes? Because, you'll
Yeah.
get caught up on Nobody Wants This, and I don't want to spoil it yet for anyone who hasn't watched this, but I think this season in particular like dives deeper into that question, like
Mhm.
how hard should it be at the end of the day to make it work?
I think that's such a great question. In my experience, especially if you are in a position where you are blessed enough to be in your 20s and 30s and still have your family around you, right? Because it is a blessing, unless they've been, terrible to you. So let's say you're in your marrying age and you have a really good relationship with your immediate and extended family. I feel like that's the dangerous compromise. I feel like you like to go out, I like to stay in, but we love each other. Those type of things, I think you can massage. I think you can figure out maybe something that is a hobby you both never knew you had that now brings you both out of the house, right? I do put those as like lower hanging fruit, where I think the compromise, and I do think why it's a good show, because it speaks exactly to this, is when it comes to things like religion and family. There's no compromising that away. If you're
Yeah.
someone who, for example, maybe didn't have a really tight relationship with your mom when you were growing up, right?
Yeah.
And you meet someone and he's incredibly close with his mom. If it's a situation where like that mom is cold to you, for example, and you're in a position where now you're having to like get her love, I don't think that's something that you should have to compromise on. I think that's something where it's like, no, like in my life, this is something I'm missing. I'm looking for my partner to have
Yeah.
a family. It doesn't have to be your mom, right? But like have a family that is going to love and accept me into their life. And if that's not what I'm getting from you, then and then I would put religion on that same. If you really feel strongly that you're not going to participate in a sort of religion, I actually think that that's totally fine. I think the two of you could live together, having two different religions. I think the compromise comes if you have children. What does that look like for them? Whose religion wins out then, right?
Totally.
Where, because you can't, you could, I guess you could, but like you can't bring them two places to be baptized, right? Like you do have to pick, or you have to say, okay, we'll allow them to make that decision when they're older, right? But I'm a fan of light compromise when it comes to pushing each other on your boundaries. There are so many things that I did with my husband that I had never done in my whole life before I met him, that I never thought that I would do. Simple things, getting on a snowboard. Like I know
Yeah.
that might be stupid, but I lived in Northern California my whole life, and I had never gone to Tahoe and gotten on a snowboard, right?
Yeah.
So just there were just simple things that he pushed me out of my comfort zone to do. And if you're just a no from the beginning, then like good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck finding someone. But I also think, from what it sounds like, I'm not going to lie to you, I think I kind of know how that season ended. Have you watched the whole thing?
Oh yeah, I binged the whole thing. And I mean,
Because
it might not be what you think, but I do think that I like that they continue to explore this because, as I mentioned, I have a boyfriend, I'm not yet married, and I think like, when you're still kind of, in that world, it's a big topic of conversation, right? Especially as you get older. It's like, what are those things that you're willing, to overlook, or what are the things that you're willing to bend on, right? And I think there's so many schools of thought sometimes that like that in and of itself can get very overwhelming. And so that to me is sort of the most interesting thing about the show, right? It's just sort of exploring that, like how
Yeah.
much do you bend before you break,
Right.
right? I think
Yeah.
like me personally, my perspective on this has definitely changed over time, and it's definitely
Hmm.
changed like after different dating experiences and things like that. Like I think to your point, religion maybe, but that can be a tougher one, when you start to have kids. I think something I've really changed my perspective on that, I think kind of goes against even what Kristen Bell is saying. Because, I think it's like well documented that Dax is sober, she's
Right.
not, I think for me, like those are actually the types of things as I've gotten older that I do think are much more challenging in a relationship, and even like
Totally.
just beyond like drinking and things like that, like really having like a true lifestyle match, right? I think
Yeah.
if you look at the characters and Nobody Wants This, like they're dealing with the whole religion thing, right? And that also, like, obviously is presenting a lot of very huge challenges, and those are real, and, those are things they have to work through. But I think if you think about the two characters, they still more or less have like a lifestyle match to a certain point.
I
At least
agree.
that's what they
Yeah.
kind of like show us on the show. Like it seems
Yes.
like they both sort of live in the same area in LA, or, they kind of like to do the same things. They're both like active people, not necessarily like athletic, but they go out, they like to be out. And I think that stuff actually is more important than people give it credit for. And I think, you
100%.
probably see this more because you have, like more married couples in your life. But I think as you get older, those things start to like expose themselves in a really different way, right? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think like even to bring it full circle to the wife swap conversation, it was sort of interesting. Like Angie took the Idaho husband out one night because they never go into town, right?
Oh,
Like
okay.
took
So it's
him.
like rural Idaho.
Yes, like
Got
the nearest town is like 30 minutes away from
it.
their
Okay.
house. And
Okay.
he's like having the time of his life. He's like, "Oh, it's just like a reminder to me that like we need to still kind of like get out into the world." And the thing that you can't explore in a 30-minute episode that made me wonder is like with his wife, is this a compromise that he's not actually have been thrilled about, right? Like, is she the one driving the ship on the whole, we don't need to go into town. Like,
Right.
I'm fine to
Right.
stay here. Like, what's the point of going into town? Like, why
Okay.
why would we have grandma come babysit the kids when we can just like stay here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's intriguing, but I actually, for me, I would say like that's become the bigger thing that like I won't compromise on, I think is lifestyle.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
do think, like when you have kids, I think some of that does erode anyways, like to my point, if you're both people that like love going out, like, well, that's going to change anyways when you have
Sure.
kids, right? But
Sure.
I think that the desire still being there and versus being with someone where there's no desire, you know, I think that can start to get challenging, So
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
That would be it for me. I think like on the lifestyle thing, that's the thing that I'm a bigger, I don't know if I would compromise on. I think you have to be somewhat matched in how you think
Yoked.
navigating the world.
I agree. And I'll say this. One of the things that I've found as being a mom is like how how do I say that? Marriage, like, duh, marriages are so different. That's like a
Yeah.
duh statement to say, but like, oh my God, marriages are so different. I'll be out with a mom and she'll be telling me, yeah, my husband is in sales. He's never here. And I'm like, well, where is he? He's in Milan. It's not like he's never here. He's on the job site and we see him at night. You know what I mean? Like he's never here and she's doing it alone. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that obviously you would, before even walking down an aisle, you would understand what each other's jobs are. However, that can be something that you realize later in life, like, oh, maybe compromise is going to be me giving up my dream on how far I push my career because I can't be out of town as much as I thought I was going to be able to be out of town, right? And I think that can put an immense strain on a marriage. And I've seen it also, like, even in my own relationship too. It's really hard to when you have kids to be motivated as a mom to want to like go out of the house and work,
Yeah,
you know, because you want to be there for your kids. You just something naturally does change. That
totally.
is true what they say, right? I don't know if it's hormones or just something where you're like, could I stay at home mom? Could I make this work? You know, and then that's another point of major compromise. So I think I mention all of that to say, and I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know. The biggest thing is you have to be sure about each other. And not to sound corny, but I do think that's the biggest takeaway from this little show is that the two of them are so sure. And it is based on the foster life, right? So
Yeah.
we do know to some degree this ends, I believe, in marriage and a family. Okay, so I think that that's where it's going at least, unless they're setting us up for a season 3 of tragedy, which may be.
Mhm.
But
Oh, that's
you know, the two of them are very, very sure on each other, and maybe there is a little bit of me as an optimist that thinks sometimes can love be enough? Can it be? I don't know.
that's what all women want to believe. I mean, but I think deep down we know that's not true.
To go full circle, we know it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
which actually, as a funny aside, have you ever seen like I've seen a lot of this lately, or even on Twitter, where they say like men are actually the more romantic beings at the end of the
no,
day?
no.
Because like they'll base it on like certain stats of like men aren't really the ones that leave women, right? Like it's like women are the ones that initiate divorce, or
Sure.
even like it's well documented that men handle breakups a lot more and women
Mhm.
sort of just move on a lot
Mhm.
easier. And so I've seen
Mhm.
this a few times where they're like people will say like women are actually pretty cold-blooded and hardcore at the end of the day, right? And
Oh my God, Nicole.
it's men who are really like the true romantics in a lot of sense because they're the ones that hold on and can't get over and things like that. So I don't know. There may be something to that.
Okay, hold on, hold on. Pause for a Google lookup
Pause.
because
Google.
I want to react to that with
Google lookup, or is this an AI lookup?
no, this is a true Google lookup.
Yeah, we're
Um, okay, hold on, hold on. Okay. Our mom sent us a Megan Maroney song the other day. It's called Beautiful Things. And I think it goes to what you're saying here. I'll make this point. Fires burn up canyons. A hurricane can wreck a beach. Words can make a mockingbird forget they're born to sing. Lies can break a fragile heart, and doubt can crush your dreams. But honey, just take it from me. The world is hard on beautiful things. And I think that that speaks to it right there. You
yeah.
know, I believe that we come out of the womb, you know, and it's like all eyes on us, start performing, you little beautiful creature, and through that, I think our skin gets thick
Yeah. It
very,
has to
very,
be.
very quickly and very, very fast. You know, by the time, yeah, like I was not 18, but I think even yeah, maybe throughout high school, I feel like going into college, I wasn't falling for a lot of like sweet talk, right? Because I already knew by 18 that men weren't shit. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then, you know, men like they have their first heartbreak at 25 and it rocks their world, you know? And it's like, oh, right, because life has been perfect for you up until now. Hold on.
Pause for your first heartbreak.
No,
Your
I'm
first
just kidding.
reckoning of emotions. Yeah.
But it's true. We are not hardened by our experience, right? Because I don't think we're hard, but you know, we're savvy because of it of
Yeah, I
having
think
to be
we're forced to have to process things in a different way. And I think
and
like
move through life in a different way.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Where I do
absolutely.
think men are sometimes more sensitive, which is also sort of the irony of like the messaging that we give like boys and girls to a certain extent. But that might be another conversation for next week's
Oh,
episode.
God.
Carry
Okay,
it over.
well,
Maybe for next week you can watch Nobody Wants This because I do actually want to spend some
I
time
will.
talking not about Kristen Bell and Adam Brody's character. I think some of the more interesting parts of this season are actually more to do with his brother and her wife. There's some developments in their marriage that I think you would find really fascinating. And
Yeah.
also, and for next week, we'll definitely get the character names and the actresses and actors' names. I feel bad that I only know the main characters, but the actress that plays Kristen Bell's sister, she also goes on a bit of a journey, shall we say, this season. So
I love
we'll
that.
we'll, we'll plan to dive a little bit deeper on next week's episode. What do you
And
think?
I don't know if did you know that she was pregnant that whole first season?
I saw that. Yes. That's
Love that.
like God bless you tall women out there
Oh,
who just can
life, what is
carry
that?
a pregnancy as if nothing happened.
Oh,
I am a shorty, so if I'm ever blessed with a pregnancy, that will not be the case for me. I'm going to look like an Oompa Loompa. I already know. It's okay.
do
But
you remember? Do you remember
man,
when Kim K got pregnant and she blew up and we all just like tore her apart for not being beautiful and pregnant at the same time?
yeah, how
We're like,
dare
what's
she?
happening?
How dare she? Well, and also I saw what is that? You know that she's like Nara is this her
Oh
last name?
yeah, Nora Smith.
Nara Smith. She's getting dragged right now for posting a photo with her newborn where her stomach is completely flat. So people are accusing her of having a surrogate, which I think is like immediately disproved by, I'm pretty sure she posted all throughout her pregnancy and was like
She did.
clearly pregnant.
She did.
Just needs like this is women just need to accept
Touch
that
grass.
we have different genes, okay?
Oh,
Like if you are tall, you're gonna carry things in a different way. And just God bless her.
absolutely.
She just has a body where she can have a baby and 4 weeks later it looks like she didn't. It's just it is what it is, you know? We can't
And I'm sorry, I went to we're going to end it soon, people, but I went to a dermatologist to talk about my stretch marks. You know what I mean? And this is someone who has all the lasers and all the micro, the needles, that everything. And she's like, oh no, there's nothing that can be done about that. She's like, and don't let anyone ever tell you that they're,
ever
she's like,
tell
we,
you.
yeah, she's like, we can do, we could try, we could do these like little things to make it like, she's like, but they'll never go away, which just lets you know that when you see Emily Ratajkowski tromping down a Victoria's Secret runway, abs out, no stretch marks. That's just genetics, people, and you can't feel bad about that. She's just
100%.
blessed. And
No,
that's why
it's
she's Emily, you
it's
know?
true. Well, and also sometimes people that you think are blessed in other ways, again, like I saw Jennifer Lawrence recently came out and said how everything bounced back after baby number one. And she was like, after
Nothing,
baby number two, nothing. She's like,
nothing is bouncing
nothing
back.
bounced back. And it was an interview where she was like, so I will be getting her boobs done 100%. And then she was
Absolutely.
like, I'm not ready for the facelift, but also I'll be getting that too, so you can get over it now. So props to her.
Just
She's
here to
being
say.
honest. Is what it is.
Okay. Do we want to have any final thoughts?
I don't know. This was so much fun. I'm so excited that we're finally doing this. And yeah, I think we're excited. We have to figure out, where we're gonna host this, but I think probably on YouTube. And once we get that going, we'd love to hear comments or ideas or topics that you want us to chat through. So thank
We're
you for
so
everyone for listening. This was Rhinestoned, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, guys. Bye.